Good morning, how are you all? First things first, thank you so much for all the lovely comments that you've been leaving me and saying how much you're enjoying this storytelling series. I really appreciate every single one of them and every little thumbs up. In today's video, I'm going to tell you my Crohn's disease story, how it affected me, how long I've lived with it, what caused it, all these kinds of things, and how I am now and what I've done to actually improve my health. That's the dog, he's sitting on my lap, so I'm sorry if I look a bit fidgety today. Anyway, there is going to be some conversation which might be quite graphic. I will say that first of all. If that's not your sort of thing, then switch off. I'm going to be talking about, intestinal health and stuff like that, and bleeding and whatnot. So if you don't want to hear that, I fully appreciate that. But if you're somebody that's either got Crohn's and you want to learn what I did, I mean, everybody's going to be different because everybody's body is different, but what I did to improve my health, and let me tell you, it was like a miracle, and I do believe in miracles. So let's start very much at the beginning. When I was a baby, when I was born, and this is quite sad, this story, and it does sometimes make me slightly emotional. Apparently I just screamed and screamed and screamed, and my mum, I grew up hearing this, which is awful. Mum said I was a bloody little cow. That's the words that she used, and she used to use that as sort of like a party trick. It was so funny. She used to think, and I didn't, obviously, because I was like, she'd go, bloody little cow she was, ha 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 ha. Well, no, I wasn't. Obviously, I was a baby, so it wasn't a choice that I was just being particularly difficult. There was something not right, and I believe that my tummy was hurting because she said she needed to feed me more. So at the age of 3 days old, and obviously they did what they did years ago and what they thought was the right thing to do, but at 3 days old she started feeding me solids, and today's science says that we absolutely know that will cause food allergies later in life, very likely. Now I do have several allergies and a lot of things that upset my system, and I get frustrated when people say they've got irritable bowel, which is a description of a symptom. It isn't an illness. Irritable bowel syndrome is like saying you've got a headache. Like, it isn't, the headache is caused by something. It might be lack of sleep, it might be water, whatever. Now I do get really passionate about health and people not taking care of their own health, so if I offend you, I really apologise. But if you've got a headache and you're just living with headaches all the time, wouldn't you want to get to the root cause of what that is? So with irritable bowel syndrome, it's the same, and I get frustrated when people go, oh, I've got irritable bowel, so I'm going to have bloating and I'm going to have an upset stomach. Well, no, you don't have to. If you can get to the root cause of that, and I get so like, oh, this is why I decided to become a registered nutritionist, so I know what I'm talking about, and I get to, you know what I mean. Anyway, I've helped my own health beyond recognition. That said, I do sometimes still struggle. I am still human, and I do still like the odd thing that is going to just, times are difficult, certain times. Christmas, for example, I have to be very strict, more strict than the normal person. But if I'm not, I can write Christmas off because I'm just that unwell. So anyway, so there I was, this baby being fed solid at 3 days old, continuing to scream. Mum said, and this is actually a bit therapeutic for me, getting it off my chest. Mum said I used to throw you down the garden and let you scream because you were so horrible. Well, it wasn't horrible, was I, Mum? I was, Anyway, so long story short, I spent an entire childhood very unwell, very poorly with my tummy. I used to get tonsillitis constantly and ear infections, which has now caused me to be deaf with a little d. I don't know if you know about that. If you're deaf completely, as you put it with a big D, deaf with a little d means you're impacted with your hearing. In certain circumstances, I can hear reasonably okay. In other circumstances, not so, and I do need to wear hearing aids. So anyway, I was just this unwell person generally, and I didn't really realise how unwell I was until I started seeing how other people live their lives. And off I went to college, and I left home at 16. I probably don't need to explain too much about why that happened. But yeah, and I started to think, oh my goodness, people don't sit on the toilet for half a day of their life every day. And, I started to see that these were like real things, but I just accepted it because it was a bit like that person I've just described with their irritable bowel syndrome. You've got this thing and it's just this thing, and that's just how you live your life. But honestly, if you start to do your flipping research and look at your health better, you can make improvements, but sometimes you don't have the answers. And my answer came in 2009 when I got so unwell, and I'd lived with a lot of this is where the graphic bit's going to come. I'd lived with a lot of bleeding, rectal bleeding, for years and years, and they started to tell me about the age of 15 it's piles. Now I don't know why somebody at the age of 15 might have that, you know, hemorrhoids. I don't know if it's called piles everywhere in the world, but that's how they generally refer to it here. And what it actually turned out to be was Crohn's, obviously we know that now, and it was tears inside my intestines that keep opening up and having problems going to the toilet, whichever way that is, constipation or diarrhea, doesn't help with that. Now what Crohn's disease is an illness that you can get anywhere from your mouth right through to your anus, and they actually say that that's the outside of your body, because if you imagine say like a polo, right, you've got the hole in the middle, that's what your intestinal system and your whole digestive system is. It's like a hole through the middle of your body, and they say that that's kind of not inside. You have to absorb something for it to get inside your body. So whatever you're putting through there is kind of going through this hole. You'll take things in, some things you won't take in. That's why nutrition is so important, but sometimes you might need some supplementation if you are slightly lacking in certain things, like me. I think I might get my roots doing soon. Like me, I struggle to absorb certain things. Now with Crohn's, it can be affected anywhere. Sometimes you get real nasty sores in your mouth. You can have, some people even get it in their pancreas and things like that, which is mad, but that's a sort of that's an inflammation thing. The actual Crohn's itself, they say, is in the digestive tract, and mine is mostly in the large intestine and in the colon. So as far as we know anyway, but I do have my actual stomach, my, you know, we say stomach is here, but it's not, it's here. So my actual stomach has got gastritis, which is inflammation. I've got a hiatus hernia, which is the thing that causes you to have reflux. A couple of little bits and bobs like that I think are all affected probably from childhood and the way that I ate. Now what I didn't know, which I found out in 2009, is that I'm celiac, which means I am actually allergic to eating gluten. And this, I've been eating gluten until I was 38 years old. I did not know this was a thing. I wouldn't have even known to pay attention to my body to realise why was this so thingy, why was it so, like, such a major thing. Now, in 1992, I got really sick. And I think that was brought on by stress. I was newly married, yes, very young. And we had a really tough time in our first few weeks, actually. I won't go into details, that's really not the place for that story, but I was really ill and I couldn't keep any food inside me, and why anybody didn't like pursue that, I don't know, including me, but I just didn't know. I just felt quite clueless. So anyway, I ended up weighing 7.5 stone. I was particularly skinny, bony everywhere. Isn't that cute, that candle? It's vanilla and coconut. It smells so nice. When I think, God, I'm so not the human being that I was back then. I've changed so much. And look at me with I can have my milky coffee, like every so often. It's completely fine. Nice. So yeah, I got really unwell then, and like I say, really skinny, and I've gone from that extreme to the extreme where I don't eat hardly anything and my weight just bloats and my face bloats, and you can see when I'm well and when I'm not, because I actually look completely different. Do you remember that photograph I showed you? Yeah, that was me eating gluten, and I didn't, like I say, I didn't weigh a lot more than I do now, but I looked massive and it was just bloating. So anyway, so I cut my gluten because I found, let me think, where did this come to a pinnacle? I was married at the time, and I said to my then husband, I said, look, something is going on, I don't know what this is, but I keep seeing this stuff down the toilet, please be warned again. And I took a photograph of it to take to the doctors, and the only way I can describe it is it looked like, you know, when you remove the skin off of a chicken breast and then there's those little white blobs of fat that's left on there. Sometimes you can take those off and there's like a little tiny second skin. So those kind of blobs of fat is what it looked like, and it turned out it was actually mucosal lining, which we all have and we all need as a natural protection in all of our places of our body. You know, when you get inflammation in your well, when you get a cold and you get like really bunged up, that's inflammation that causes that. So anyway, so I had all this inflammation inside. Can you hear him snoring? I had all this inflammation in my intestines, to the point that this mucosal lining was coming away. That, and I was bleeding literally as if I was having a period. So I had to wear protection for that 24/7, and it had been going on for quite a few months. So I went to the doctors, and I had a terrible diagnosis to start with. This little lady examined me and she said, "You're going to need an operation." Oh my God, I can't believe I'm sharing this on YouTube. She said, "You're going to need an operation to make your anus," I'm a scientist, I can say that, "to make your anus bigger because it's very small." And I was like, oh my God, okay, really, that sounds really scary. And that was a terrible thing. That was a terrible piece of advice. While she may have been right, I mean, I needed to just make sure that, you know, I'm dealing with that. Oh God, this is funny and not funny at the same time, isn't it? But those of you who are watching nearly 11 minutes in, you're here because you're incredible. So anyway, and it's not a laughing matter at all. So anyway, then I saw, it was actually her husband, and they ran the practice together, and he said, "I think we're going to send you for a colonoscopy." And it was the first colonoscopy I'd had. If you don't know what that is, it's where they put you to sleep. It is an operation, it is surgery, and they give you they put cameras inside as far as they can right around the colon, and they take biopsies. And I had lots of biopsies taken. I won't talk about colonoscopy as it stands, because that's probably a whole other video. But I had the biopsies taken, and it came back that, well, they first of all thought by the initial look, because I was full of ulcers inside my colon, they were bleeding and they were open sores, which is very serious. And at that stage, you can sometimes have to have that taken away, and then you live with a stoma bag. I was very lucky in that I very quickly did my research and found out if it was ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease are very, very similar. Ulcerative colitis goes on the outside of the first layer, if you like, of your digestive tract, and Crohn's goes deeper layers, and it can be to the point that it goes right through. And then you've got also generally leaky gut as well that goes with that. So you're taking big particles of food and they're going into your bloodstream. That's not designed, that's toxic. You're not supposed to be having that. I hope this isn't my builders turning up. Ah, gosh, I thought I was nice and early this morning. So what I did is I researched, and then I got very interested in research, which of course is now sort of what I do for work, kind of loosely. And I found something called the specific carbohydrate diet. And I started to apply that religiously in my life. I dropped an awful lot of weight. I felt worse, first of all, and then I felt better within about 3 weeks. My bleeding stopped, which they told me, without serious amounts of medication, which is steroids, immunosuppressants, biologics, because my body's attacking itself. It's an autoimmune disease, so it attacks that area. Without all of that or surgery, they said, "You're not going to make improvements on your health." And I thought, well, I'm bloody well going to show you different. And I did whatever it took. I was so motivated and so inspired because I was that unwell. What I didn't do at the time was any exercise, because I didn't feel well enough to do it, and I parked that. And I just, as I was changing my diet as well, and probably detoxing an awful lot, I felt pretty shocking. So I really nurtured my body, spent a lot of time resting, a lot of time cooking these amazing meals that I was then eating differently, and through diet and lifestyle. And then I got back on the wagon with the exercise. People were coming up to me, tapping me on the shoulder, strangers in the street that I'd see on the school run, and saying, "Oh my God, you look amazing, what have you done?" And all I'd done was change my lifestyle, you know, and I hadn't taken any medication. And the doctor, actually, because I cried, we had an argument in the gastroenterologist, and he did eat humble pie, and I really respect that, because he said, "I've never seen anybody turn their health around quite like this," he said, "without medication or surgery." And I'm like, I'm not having that. I'm not having that. If this is sort of something that can be helped by lifestyle, and this is what I love about chronic disease, right? So chronic disease often, depends when you catch it, often can be changed by diet and lifestyle. And I'm such a believer in that, which is why I wrote my dissertation on that sort of thing. They didn't like that. They wanted me to be more specific, but oh well. And I'm so passionate about it, because I'm such a living testament of it. Like I say, don't get me wrong, like, it's still classed as a disability. It still means you really have to give it a lot of respect in your day. Now, because I had this pneumonia and they gave me all this medication, it has given me a few issues that I'm struggling slightly to get on top of, in relation to bleeding and more open wounds. in the intestinal area, but it's kind of improving. But I know when I let it slip, the symptoms are going, hello, look what you've done, and I'm like, oh, okay, then I'll be good again. And generally I think it is a condition that I'm not happily living with it. Of course I would like to be optimum health, but if I'm really on it and good and careful, I so can do it, which is why I've then become an allergy practitioner and a registered nutritionist, because I so want to help other people with that. And I do think, because like they do regular colonoscopies now, because if you've got Crohn's, there is a higher prevalence of you getting polyps, which can turn cancerous, and you can end up with bowel cancer. So I don't live my life in fear of that, because I'm so determined. Every time they do colonoscopies, which is normally about every 3 years, they've said, you know, it's very quiet in there. There's not much going on disease-wise. And I think, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And it's through my dedication to my health. And I just wish other people who might be my call, other people, I just wish that they would really get on it and look after their bodies. You know, you get one body, you get one chance at this physical life. Just flipping well, make it incredible, you know. That felt quite nice telling you that story. The celiac thing is sort of like a sideline, but kind of all goes in together. And obviously my AS, my ankylosing spondylitis, I'm sort of medicated, sort of not. I mean, it's that's managed by exercise and movement and flexibility, so that's another story, my ankylosing spondylitis one. I might tell you that story too, and another one if you want to know health things. I don't like to harbour on them, but I do think I've got to use my story as a platform to encourage other people to change things and do things differently. And like I say, I know if I do things wrong. I know if I eat too much of this and this and this, that my body's going, no, stop it, don't do that. It really does come and tell me and lets me know. And you can see sometimes I get these dark circles, sometimes get worse. That's a real sign of toxicity, that is. So that means that something's not right and it's coming into the body. You know, I do get these periods of fatigue where I'm like, it just hits me like a brick wall. I can't even speak and I need to take to my bed and I'm just like flat out. But, you know, it is what it is, and it's something that I kind of have to live with. And when I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great, you know. So can't wait for the gyms to open. I don't know about anybody else. I'm really looking forward to getting back, getting in the zone, getting my headphones on, listening to some podcasts or some music, and just, yeah, just, you know. Anyway, enough story time for now. I will look forward to seeing you in my next video, and I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, if you're someone with Crohn's, if you've got any questions that you think I can help with, please do leave me in the comments below. If you're someone that knows of someone else that's had a story, then, you know, let me know. We used to do this walk for Crohn's and colitis in London. We haven't done it for a while because I was advised not to walk too far. Because of my AS, they said it's not very good on your joints, which I'm bending my legs here because of the dog. I'll show you him in a second. But when we go, sorry, I just got a message from Anna, you little sweetheart. When we go and do these walks, they're very much, you see some people in tragic circumstances in wheelchairs with their NG tubing, sometimes even with oxygen. And you can tell they're nearing the end of their life because they're so skinny. And I just think it's really, really sad that doctors aren't advised enough. And I even went to see a dietitian. This frustrates me with dietitians because they're told to eat, you know, eat the Eat Well plate. They didn't look back at, well, I mean, I'm going back 10 years, obviously. They didn't go into the whole, you know, eat for your type of body sort of thing, and that frustrates me, which is why I like being a nutritionist, because I can get into specific things with people, you know, and what's going on. So anyway, that's me. Do you want to see the doggy? And then I'm going to bid you farewell for the day. Look at him sitting on my lap. He's such a cutie. Look, he's tired. You guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you tomorrow.